Hey guys, welcome back to Love Your Shelf. I'm Tracy, and even though it's August already, I don't know how that happened. I really wanted to do a mid-year freakout this year, and I never got around to it. And I was like, you know what? It's too late. We can't do it now. And then I looked over the questions, and I read through just the books that I've read in the first half of the year in July, which is around 50. The most books I've ever read in a year is 69 that I've kept track of, and that's 2 years in a row. I read 69 books. I couldn't get over that 70 hump. And right now I'm just under 60, so I think I'm going to actually make it over that hump this year, and I'm pretty stoked about that. And I was looking through the questions for mid-year freakout, and I was just really surprised by my answer. And I felt like if I don't talk about this book, no one's going to talk about this book, and people need to be talking about this book. And that's just me. Maybe I'm crazy, and maybe you'll read it and think it's not for you. But I was very surprised. So I'm going to do the tags for all the things except best film to book adaptation, because I literally can't think of any book that I've read that is a film. I do know, in the last few months, so after July, I read Daisy Jones and the Six, which is now a Netflix series. But I have only seen one episode of that, and I'm really disappointed with the casting. So I'm going to skip that one. But I really want to talk to you about the first tag, which is the best book you've read this year. And that's because I'm freaking shocked by it. I went through, I looked at my 5 stars for this year. There's a few of them, like 5 maybe, out of the first 50 books. So that's a good amount. 10% is 5 stars. But I need to talk to you about Your Emergency Contact Has Experienced an Emergency by Chen Chen, which is my favorite book this year. I'm trying to read more poetry. I really love poetry, but normally I don't get as much out of a poetry book as I would other books. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think what is true is that it's easy for me to read a poetry book and be moved by it in the moment and then move on. It doesn't normally give me a lot to think about, except that it was nice to read it. You know what I mean? But this book has changed all of that, 100%. And it's the main reason I'm doing this mid-year freakout in August, super late, because I just feel like we need to talk about it. So in this book, Chen Chen explores through poetry and questions essentially his life and what it's like to be gay and Asian in America. And it is incredible. So one of the things that he does is he journals answers to questions from Vertical Interrogations of a Stranger is a book by Banu Kapil, where she pretty much explores, she's a young Indian woman who travels and takes her between homes in 2 countries, India and England, and throughout parts of the United States, and she journals based on these questions. There are 12 questions total, and one of the questions I'll read to you and his answers from Your Emergency Contact Has Experienced an Emergency is, what are the consequences of silence? So there's good questions. Who was responsible for the suffering of your mother? How will you live now? Who are you and whom do you love? What is the shape of your body? What do you remember about the earth? How will you or have you prepared for your death? What do you know about dismemberment? That's some of them. There's 12 total. So he answers these questions journalistically and poetically through it's just incredible. I'm gonna read it. Okay, so what are the consequences of silence? Another memory, another conversation, the same conversation. Are you afraid of women because of me? So that's his mom. Conversation between him and his mom. I shake my head. I'm shaking my head hard. I remember that feeling, shaking my head instead of screaming, though I also did that. I am shaking my head and trying to stay calm at a normal volume. I'm not afraid of women. I just don't feel for women what I feel for guys, I guess. I want to answer my mother, no, I'm afraid of you because of you. And then later on, as he's going through this, it comes up again. What are the consequences of your silence? I want to answer my mother. No, I'm not afraid of women, and I'm not afraid of you. I love men, that's all. That's what you can't believe, won't say, won't let me answer, because you can't find the right question. And oh my gosh, I just think that's incredible, because I feel like there's so many things that we as people want to tell people, and we can't come across the right words because the questions that were asked weren't the right questions. Like, I just remember growing up as a teenager who was bi and struggling, or pansexual and struggling. Like, I didn't really know what I was sexually at the time, but like, just the questions that I was asked they didn't bring me to the honest truth of who I really was. And I just feel that so much in this answer. And there's so many good things and good lines from this book. How do you tell someone you love them without making them think about one day losing you? That's one of the questions that I highlighted, some of the things that he said. It's just an incredible book, and this book and the fact that he utilized it to write his own questions, write his own answer to those questions, has actually changed my journaling. Like, I'm journaling through those questions now too, and I feel like I'm finally getting somewhere and realizing who I am and what I want in life, and that's fucking awesome. Like, what a poetry book did this, guys. And I know that he had additional inspirations, which I think is even more incredible. Like, I love when inspiration sparks inspiration, sparks inspiration, sparks inspiration. That is what art is about. That's what literature is about. That's what music's about. It's incredible. So I really am just doing this mid-year freakout so I can talk to you about this book, because it's literally all I've thought about since I've read it. Legit. So definitely, if you have time, if you find time, it's like an hour and a half. There's less than 200 pages. The book is definitely readable. Like, figure it out. And I hope that it helps you as much as it's helped me. I hope that it inspires questions within your groups that make you guys vulnerable and takes you to a new place, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here for the vulnerability. I'm here for the searching, the finding, those deep questions. So, your emergency contact has experienced an emergency contact by Chen Chen. 100% my best book of the year so far. So I'm going to do the rest of the mid-year freakout because we have, like, yes, let's do that. We started out with a bang. I don't know if it's going to get better than that, but I still want to go through the rest of them too. So the best sequel that I've read, so I actually have two. I couldn't decide. And this is the only one I couldn't decide between, because I originally put down this and then I was like, oh, I also read this, and I can't decide which one I loved more. I did give this 5 stars. So, A Prayer for the Crown Shy, which is a sequel to Monk and Robot, is that what it's called? A Psalm for the Wild Built, by Becky Chambers. So, A Prayer for the Crown Shy is the second book to that. I don't know how many of them there are going to be, but I hope that there is more. It's really good. It's about a monk and a robot that are like walking through colonies so that robots can ask human beings, what do you need? Because a long time ago, humans built robots went their own ways, and robots decided they want to come back and help humans how they can help them. And so they start with the question, what do you need? Which is like pretty interesting. Like if someone asked me, what do I need? That answer could change any second of any minute of any day. And the fact that some people talk about an emotion that they need fulfilled, and other people talk about an act of service that they need, and some person's like, I just need a hug, and some people are like, I need to find my dog. Like, it's crazy because it's so simple, but we don't think of life as that simple. And it's also not simple, like, because everyone needs something different, but they all kind of need the same type of thing. Anyway, it's really good. A Prayer for the Crown Shy. I definitely recommend it. The other one that I put on here is Heart of the Sun Warrior, which is the second book by Sue Lynn Tan. The first book is Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I read Daughter of the Moon Goddess last year. I was really excited for this book, Heart of the Sun Warrior, to come out. There were parts of it where I felt like I just didn't know where it was going to go. I didn't know how it was going to end up being what I wanted it to be. And then the end, like, blew my mind. Okay, that's fine. You got yourself in a love triangle and you figured it out in a way I'm not mad at. So that was pretty cool. It's a good book about a daughter who is also the daughter of a moon goddess, but her dad is a sun warrior, and like kind of learning that all of the things that you thought you knew aren't really what they seem, which happens all the time. So new releases I haven't gotten to yet. The one I'm going to talk about is The Last Ranger, which is by Peter Heller. Peter Heller is so hit or miss for me, but I can't stop reading him because the books that I love. And that is The River by Peter Heller. And then also I read The Whale Warriors. He was a journalist, but he's gotten more into fictitious books now. So I recently read another book by him. It was the sequel to The River, and I freaking hated it. And I don't remember what it's called now, and it's really not worth mentioning. I've read The Dog Stars, but I'm excited about The Last Ranger. I hope that it is good. And since I've been back and forth and I just read something by him I didn't like, I'm really hoping that this book is something I do like. The biggest disappointment of the year, I'm so sad about, is The Winners by Fredrik Backman. And if you know me, if you've listened to my YouTubes before, you know that I love Fredrik Backman with a passion. He is my favorite author. He's just phenomenal. He makes me laugh. He makes me cry. The third book to Beartown is The Winners. And y'all, I'm just really disappointed. Like, it didn't bring a lot of the emotion that I need. It didn't bring a lot of things, and it killed my favorite character, and we all knew he was gonna die anyway. I wasn't okay. I didn't like reading it. I was very disappointed. Beartown was phenomenal. 5 stars for me. Us Against You was alright. This book was a huge disappointment, and it's the only book by Fredrik Backman I've ever read I've been disappointed by. And I'm glad that I finished the series, but I'm also glad that it's over because I hate how it ended. So, yep, there's that. My biggest surprise. My biggest surprise I also have here, bear with me. Beasts of Extraordinary Circumstance by Ruth Emmy Lang. This is really good. It follows a person who has powers, so it's magical realism, And the powers changed. He has a lot of things going on. But so I'm not going to get into that. But what I really love about this is that the way it was written is other people that knew him and the things, how he like touched their life. So the narrators, there's a lot of them. It's like the person that he fell in love with, and a person that adopted him, like the sister, and just someone that happened upon him and kind of became friends with him when he didn't really have a lot of friends, because the magical realism and the magic that he brought and the things that he could do affected his friendships and his ability to think that he can love and should love, and that it was safe for him to love. So it's really good. I really enjoyed the fact that it had different narrators, and it's kind of cool because it's like, this sounds weird, but like when someone dies, you kind of get to see different pieces of them through other people when you go to a funeral and they talk about their lives and the stories that they have together with someone. That's kind of what this book reminds me of, except this person doesn't die. And it's kind of cool to think that we just go through life and don't realize sometimes the effects that we have on other people. So hearing those effects first-handed is pretty cool. And just overall, it's a really good story. It's very well written. So this book surprised me a lot because I went into it not really knowing what to expect. Yeah, it says, born in a blizzard, orphaned and believed to be raised by wolves, Waylon Gray is someone who inspires endless curiosity in everyone he's ever met. People say that once Waylon wanders into your world, you'll wish he'd never leave. But what makes him different? How does he possess the ability to transform others' lives? How does he manage to find and create magic in the ordinary? This is the story of Waylon's journey, told from the perspective of those who knew him, loved him, or were bewildered by him along the way. One of them does include someone that employs him. So there's more to the back, but this book was very surprising to me, and I did enjoy it a lot. New favorite author is Becky Chambers. So last year I read A Psalm for the Wild-Built. So this year I read the second book to that, which we just talked about, A Prayer for the Crown Shy. And then because I liked those books so much and what they brought to the table, I also started reading her Wayfarer series, which is like 4.5 books because it's 4 books, and then one like 1.5, but it's like stories. And so I've read the first one and I've read the second one, so I still have 3 and 4 left. But Becky Chambers is really cool because she creates worlds where everyone is understanding of each other. Like, maybe not everywhere, but her characters are understanding of each other. And it kind of reminds me of Schitt's Creek, how Dan Levy and Eugene Levy like made a world where no one questions David and his love for Patrick, and whatever he ends up doing, it's just like love is love. And Becky Chambers does that too. Love is love. People are people. No one should judge each other. Everyone's just who they are. No one's going to question that. It's accepted and you're good, and it's awesome to read. And she's done it in 2 different series now that are very different, but they still have that same aspect, and I really enjoy that. And you get to like learn more about these people and what they bring and why they're different, and it's just incredible that it's accepted for even how different they are. So that's great. Becky Chambers, new favorite author right now. My new fictional crush is Marissa Myers. Cinder, Scarlet, Cress, Winter, Stars Above, and Fairest. So I haven't read Stars Above and Fairest, but my new favorite fictional crush is Winter from Winter. You don't really get to know anything about her. That's her right there. Boop. You don't really get to know anything about her until the fourth book, really. Like, she kind of comes in the third book a tiny bit, but not a lot. And she plays like Snow White's character. So Cinder is based off Cinderella. Scarlet is based off Little Red Riding Hood. Cress is based off Rapunzel. And Winter is based off Snow White. And I don't love Snow White. Like, she's not my favorite princess. But Winter, the depiction of Snow White in this book, she's freaking awesome. Like, she's just so kind-hearted, and she cares about people. She's super compassionate. She has strong morals. She stands up for what she believes in. She's afraid, but she has courage. So I guess we're going to talk about books that made you cry. And even though The Winners was a disappointment for me, and I had read Beartown last year, I'm going to put Us Against You as the book that made me cry. So Us Against You is the second book to Beartown. And the reason Us Against You made me cry is because Leo's parents, I just really love their relationship. It explores a lot, and this is what I love about Bachman, is he's so good at exploring love and relationships and the capacity for human beings to be resilient. And he still does this in all of his books, even the one I was disappointed by. And he does this a lot in Peter and his wife's relationship. And it just made me cry a lot. It really pulled on my heartstrings as far as me and my relationship. So it was a good book, and it did make me cry. It's not as good as Beartown, but it's better than The Winners. So yes. The next book is a book that made you happy. And for me, that book is a book that really took me also by surprise. I picked it up because everyone says you have to read it, but I wasn't really thinking anything of it when I did. It was just available to read, and I was like, oh yeah, everyone says I have to read this, so I will. But it's Kekai by Vaishnavi Patel. And it made me really happy because it's just such a good story about just things that it also has magic realism. It's about a woman who's touched by the gods, and she can see bonds and emotions on a plane, in the world. And how she uses that to navigate, and how she doesn't use that to navigate through what life throws at her. And it is a stunning, heartbreaking book that ends up okay. It turns out good. Even though I was scared, it wasn't. There definitely are some hardships, and there's some holy shit, that just happened moments. But it ends up being really good. It made me happy because you follow a really strong woman who ends up making a really good life for herself despite the position that she's in as a woman back in the day, where normally all you do is get married and have children and get forgotten about or beaten and forgotten about. So it made me happy because it went against those odds, and overall she had a really good life where she was able to raise a bunch of really amazing sons and touched a lot of people, and her influence brought more women power, which is yes, let's be happy about that. That's incredible. So yes, Kekai is definitely that. So the last but not least, is the most anticipated release of 2023, which hasn't come out yet for me. It won't come out until November. I learned about it a month and a half ago. I cannot wait for it to come out. It's called Mother, Nature, and it's by Jedediah Jenkins, who also wrote Streams of Consciousness and To Shake the Sleeping Self. To Shake the Sleeping Self is one of my favorite books. It's about him and a friend, kind of, biking, kind of because his friend's there sometimes and isn't there sometimes, biking from Portland down to Patagonia, and then he meets up with his mom, and through this, he doesn't explore, but he has a lot of time to reflect about growing up gay and Christian. So, growing up with very religious parents as a gay man, and it is heavy. It's heavy, but it's good. And he has, as a person, since I've read this book, I've watched him grow so much because of Instagram. And Mother Nature is a book where him and his mom go backpacking through the same like miles that she went backpacking through and hitchhiking through when she was young, because she used to do that. I don't know if it's how she met his father or just something that they did later, but yeah, so I can't wait for that book, because I know that a lot of the things he talks about in How to Shake the Sleeping Self is not animosity toward his mother, but just the fact that she doesn't understand him. And even if you're gay and you're out, your parents, like the people that are supposed to love you no matter what, not fully understanding you, that's like 100% a real thing. It hurts. And so him going on this walk with his mom, fuck dude, I know that's just gonna reflect so many, hopefully incredible things, like deep, vulnerable conversations. I'm sure they get along well and they're gonna do amazing things, but I know that some things are gonna come up that he's struggled with in the past, and I hope that he gains clarity and they gain peace in it, and I can't wait to read that book. So those are my mid-year freakouts in August. I didn't put any books that I read before July or after July in there. So hopefully next time this comes around, when we talk about end of the year, we'll have some new stuff in here. But I did want to go over those mid-year books because I just felt like I needed to talk about them. We have to talk about them. We can't not talk about them. So anyway, have you read any of these books? What do you think of them? What type of books have you read that would make your lists? Please let me know. If you like this channel, please subscribe. I hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.